All right. In 2018, the RPT had 331 planks or platforms. After the state convention, that number is most likely to grow even higher this year. So they're broken out in several categories, but how do you go about prioritizing what the most important planks are, and how would the RPT, under your leadership, work with representatives and senators with turning some of the higher priority ones into bills?
Well, we have the principles, and I think the principles are strong. They're based upon individual rights and freedoms and responsibility and accountability, and making sure that we maintain the right relationship between the institution of government and the individual. If you understand the United States of America, if you understand Texas, the individual is sovereign over the institution of government. So that's the most important thing we need to be looking at as far as our legislative priorities, to make sure that we keep that right balance. Now, when we look at the platforms and the planks and all of that, you know, I'm a boy from down south, and, you know, I used to just jump out of airplanes. I ain't the smartest guy, so, you know, it's kind of hard to try to memorize 332 things. But I think that it's very important that we have the grassroots involvement, that they bring up those resolutions. But the important thing is that we should also scrub those platforms and the planks to make sure that we reduce redundancies and duplicities, because as I learned early on, if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority. So you have to be able to say, you know, when you look at your principles, those 10 principles, and you transition to those platforms and the planks, what are the priorities of the platform and planks that relate to those 10 principles and values?
So we actually have 3 different things at the party. We have our principles, which are core 10 principles that are eternal-ish, right? The closest thing to eternal life on earth, right? That is not heavenly inspired are our principles, and those are things like fighting for life and traditional marriage and the things that we fight for decades in a row. And then we have our legislative priorities. Those are our top priorities that we proactively go after and really advance. And we did that. We did that with life for the first time ever. We ended funding for taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood in Texas. That was a big deal. For the first time ever, we got unlicensed carry after disasters. Now that's not enough. I want full constitutional carry. I don't want to have to get a license. I'm not going to get a license. And we're gonna win constitutional carry, but we got unlicensed carry after a disaster. We did make gains in religious liberty. We did make gains. We made gains on property tax, and we're already working on ending M&O and switching that tax off of property tax. Although we had some friends who opposed us on that effort. So we've got multiple things that we're going to continue to work for, but it's up to the party delegates at the convention to decide whether all those 5 still stay our legislative priorities or not, whether they're 5, whether they're more, whether they're less. But then the platform, and I didn't really get this until I started really advocating for advancing our platform as chair, and when I ran for chair and I committed advancing the platform. The platform is not about prioritization and selection. The platform is our reference book, right? When a reporter calls me and says, "What is your position on NAFTA?" I say, "Give me a second," and we whip open the platform and say, "It says it's very important that we renegotiate. We believe in free and fair trade, but we think NAFTA is a bad deal and we want a better deal." Bingo. Our position on NAFTA has already been set by our delegates. I don't have to think about what that is. I'm certainly not going to wing it or make it up. I'm going to fight for what they said. But that's a responsive, it's a reference point, it's our touchstone. Nobody has to memorize it. Nobody has to agree with 100% of it either, because, you know, we're independent thinkers, right? We believe in personal responsibility. One of the upsides of having 200 or 300 planks is that everybody recognizes that no one elected official is going to swear permanent fealty to every one of those 200 or 300. The question is, and my encouragement to every one of those elected officials is, hey, look, read through the platform, find the couple that you don't agree with, and talk to voters about those, and make sure your voters agree with you on the ones you don't agree with the party on. Then great. Then your voters will support you when you don't help with those. But in the meantime, the way we approached it, I set meetings with, our goal was to meet with every single Republican elected official in the legislature during session We weren't able to accomplish that. Session gets really crazy towards the end. But I met with dozens upon dozens of legislators, and with every one of them, my question was, which of your bills are supported by our platform? Whichever of your bills are supported by our platform, we will help you get those passed. And in fact, we had 100 bills passed that advanced 49 of our platform planks. It's double what the party had ever seen before in terms of bills passed, and it was significant accomplishments on things that helped everyday Texans, like finally getting an end to red light cameras, right? Yeah. And as somebody who lives in an unincorporated part of Travis County on purpose, you know, finally, for the first time in Texas history, taxing entities are not allowed to annex you and your neighbors without a vote of you and your neighbors. So we didn't get everything we wanted, but we made serious accomplishments. And if you just change how you're looking at the platform, you know, I trust the delegates to come up with the right ones, to come up with the right prioritization. We'll see what they come up with this time, and they may choose to make it a lot shorter, they may not.